welcome back to the Inspiration Station where stories spark action. I'm your host, Mr. U. If you're watching us for the very, very first time, thanks for making us part of your week. We're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube as we speak. So if you're watching us from any of those places and you have a question or comment from myself or my guests coming in today, drop it in the comment section. We do our best to answer it live right here on the air. With us today, master coach, published author, CFL, that's football, y'all, first round draft pick, and certified wellness specialist, Brian Nugent. He's in the house with us today. Brian, how are you, man?
Good. I'm really excited to be here.
Same here, man. I'm stoked, brother. Good. All right, so before we get into all the things that's going on with you, which is a lot, so I hope we can get it all into the time that we have today. Kind of give us a really brief overview of your childhood, how you came up, and how you got to the place you think, and what were key factors that got you from there to here. Go ahead and share that with you.
Well, I grew up with 7 brothers and sisters. It's a very competitive household. Yeah, I was number 5. And the interesting thing was, I always had a desire to play pro sports. So there was a guy I looked up to. You guys probably know him, especially if you're in my generation. Jerry Rice. He played for the San Francisco 49ers. And I want to be a receiver. Yeah, yeah, that's right. The goat, right? So I looked up to him, and I wanted to be Jerry Rice. Everyone wanted to be Jerry Rice at that time, right? So I remember training, and I was an all-Canadian top football player coming out of high school, top football player in the country. And I remember one time training outside, it was raining with thunder and lightning. And I had a decisive moment at that time because I'm in the middle of the field, there's thunder and lightning. I'm training, and I have this goal and dream of wanting to be a pro athlete. And I was like, oh, maybe I should go inside, But I just kept training. Anyways, I ended up going inside, and my dad walks down the stairs with a Jamaican accent, and he goes, Brian, what you do, boy? I'm like,
what do, boy?
I go, Dad, I was outside training, and he goes, I think it's time for you to get a real job. And I was like, oh my goodness. You seen that one? Right, especially a Jamaican father, right? So I was like, at that moment, I remember we had like this wall. It was filled with mirrors. And I remember looking at myself and I'm saying, should I get a real job? Or should I keep pursuing this dream? Anyways, I didn't listen to my father. I kept pursuing the dream, and I ended up becoming a first-round draft pick in the CFL, Calgary Stampeders, 9th pick overall. And, I played some football. And then what happened was, as I was playing football, it's very normal for the administrative staff to come to the professional athletes and identify and say, hey, you want to come out to a charity event, you want to come out to a golf event, you want to come out to the hospital and sign some autographs, because you're a pro athlete, right? So that's normal, right? You're like, okay, no problem. And then when you go out there and you're signing all these autographs, it's not uncommon for them to say, hey, if you don't mind, I know this is a little unusual, but can you say a few words to these people? So I said, no problem. So you say some words of motivation, inspiration, and focus and discipline. And they're like, wow, you know what, Brian? I think you can speak pretty well. So one thing led to another, and more opportunities. And I played for 5.5 years. I got a lot of opportunities to speak. And then after I retired from playing pro football, I was lost. Because my whole identity was being an athlete, right?
Yeah.
So I would say for like 6 months to a year, I don't know. Back then it was depression, but it was something bad. I ended up gaining like 50 pounds, and it wasn't good. And I remember me and my fiance at that time, we went away to a trip. I think we went to Bermuda, came back, looked at the photos, and I saw a photo. Sometimes you see a photo of yourself, and you're like, oh my goodness.
It's not flattering.
Is this what I really look like? I thought I looked like I had something left. You know what I mean? And I was like, wow, this is where I've gotten. So I ended up starting my personal training business, T1 Fitness, and then I was training a lot of people. And then those that are trainers or hairstylists, they would understand this, that it's not uncommon for people to tell their problems. So I was really good at solving problems. Meanwhile, solving their body because that's what they hired me for, personal training. Long story short, these women, because a lot of women, 85% of personal trainers coach women. They were like, Ryan, you're really good at this. I'm like, thank you. Like I was just trying to help you out. I was trying to train your body, but yeah, sure, no problem. I ended up getting a lot of certifications and coaching certifications and masters of NLP, master of hypnosis, and I ended up starting my coaching practice simultaneously while I was doing personal training. And then I opened up wellness centers that had coaching practice and personal training. So that's what I call the wellness center. So that was my journey, and that's what led me into speaker, author, and then just going full throttle and focusing on that. And because personal training is, more on the high end, it's usually executives or people that have, extra money and to get personal training. So I ended up coaching a lot of high end women, and there was a commonality with a lot of them. They were burnt out. They were working too hard. They were burning ends from both both cylinders. So I ended up specializing in it, and that's where I am today. Or that's how we got here today. Yeah.
Wow. Man, so you've done things. I mean, we had when I first started in podcasting in 2020, I came out with a mission because I was fighting through some dark places. We all were in 2020. We all had some challenges.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I ventured into a love I have for sports analysis, sports psychology, and I built a sports network on X. So about maybe 24,000 people to date doing sports stuff. So I love talking to people who are athletes and everything. You got to some of the highest levels in professional football, and those are kind of things that people who I'll be on arguments with on Twitter wish they could have done. You accomplished it.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but yes, I did.
Share with us when things changed physically in your body, because one of the things that you see in probably every sport, well, in the major sports, I think most athletes kind of get when it's over. They don't try to make a comeback, but there's some that are even in professional football right now, NFL, who are trying to make a comeback. And and if it's physical bodies are like, yo, brother, you 45, you 47, you're good, you're done.
Yeah.
When did you realize that your football career was actually done and there was no going back?
I think it was after the 21st dislocated shoulder. So I dislocated this one 16 times, and I dislocated this 5 times. And then what happened was I was driving to practice one day, and I simply had to go in the back of my car and pick up a bag. And when I picked up that bag, my shoulder popped out. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. You mean to tell me that my shoulder popped out from getting a bag? So Dr. Lacroix, which was their team doctor at the time, I went up to Dr. Lacroix, and actually we're going to play the Edmonton Eskimos in the Grey Cup. It was a Grey Cup game. And he did an MRI, and he came back, and he goes, Brian, I cannot believe this. This is me trying to do a French accent. He goes, but Brian, you have no ligament in your shoulder. I'm like, yeah, I kind of figured because I dislocate this a lot. And, even if I wave, it'll pop out, right? And he goes, how have you been doing this? I'm like, I don't know, mind over matter. And he goes, you cannot play. I'm like, Dr. Lacroix, this is the Grey Cup championship game. I have to play. I'm a key component. He goes, let me talk to your coach. So he talked to my coach, Don Matthews, who's like the second winningest coach of all time, came back. And he goes, Brian, he goes, since you have been playing like this for a very long time, keep playing. I'm like, yeah, because I've had this, like my first dislocation was in university. This was already my 4th year of professional sports. And it popped out from the first year of university to the 4th year of pro sports. It was like 16 times at that point. You know what I mean? So I ended up playing that game. And after I got the surgery, I think that was awakening because I already had a level 3 concussion, torn hamstring, torn MCL, torn pectoral major, level 3 concussion. The list goes on. And I was like, man, I want to, like, if I have kids at the time, I was like, I want to run around and be able to play with these guys. So I think it was after Dr. Lacroix said, Brian, you have nothing in your shoulder. I think that's when I realized, I think it's time to hang it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And during that time also, you talked about how your body kind of shut down. Are you able to talk about what happened there?
How my body shut down? You mean playing pro sports or just like things that I experienced in my life?
I think you mentioned something about a stroke, right?
Yes. So April 3rd of last year, I had a major stroke. So what happened was I was getting ready, as I normally do in the morning, and I was getting ready to take the kids to school. And I was getting ready to take them to school. I started suffering like a dizzy spell. But I didn't think it was much because I just gotten up. So, sometimes we get a little bit dizzy, no big deal. But that dizzy spell didn't go away. And it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I remember calling to my wife. I said, Laura. Well, I didn't say it like that. I was like, Laura. And she came in the room, and I remember at that time, she was like, hey, like, are you joking around? I'm like, no, this won't go away. You know what I mean? And I remember distinctively where, I don't know how much time transpired, but I remember seeing my mom. And my mom passed away when I was 16. Oh, right? And I remember my mom was like, I wouldn't say she was in a tunnel, but she was in like light. And she just stood there and she just looked at me like, you can come over here or you can go back. Kind of like without her even saying any words, but her eyes said that, right? Yeah. And I remember saying, I want to go back because I got 3 kids. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that was a near-death experience or whatever, but I do know that happened. I ended up coming back. I was in so much pain. Excuse me. My wife ended up taking me in the car, and she drove like she was the ambulance, even though she's not the ambulance. And she took me to the hospital, MRI, CT scan, blood work, the whole 9 yards. And they came back and they said I had a major stroke. And I remember it took me, I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, and I couldn't count to 10. And I did rehab 10 hours a day for 7 days a week for 4 months, just to kind of get to like 40%. I'm about 90% today because it was only last year it happened. But finer movements like writing, I'm having difficulty with, but everything else seems to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Was there any way to kind of detect what kind of caused it? Are you at that place, or are you still trying to figure it out?
No, well, I think what caused it, I don't know if your viewers are ready for this, but I was doing, and I found out this is the medical thing, and I don't know the name for it, but I was doing a number 2, and I was putting too much pressure, and that constipation and pressure combined with, like, I'm a big guy, I'm 6'3", 240, like, let's get this out, you know what I mean? And then the brain said, hey, Poppy, like, this is not going to work. And then, pop goes a weasel in my head. And that's essentially what happened. But it was a chain of events. It's funny you should say that because I was constipated because I was dehydrated. I was dehydrated because I ended up taking care of my 2 kids because my wife was gone because her uncle just died. And she had to go with him. So I was more preoccupied just being like really focused on being a dad. So I wasn't drinking my normal water. I wasn't going to the gym doing my normal routine. And then being out of routine, not drinking the water, then leading to constipation, then the incident, and then getting up right away. That's another thing, right? Like, I'm pushing 50, right? Getting up right away, like it was all this like perfect storm for it, right? And that's when I had the stroke.
Wow. I'm glad you're doing better, brother. Number one.
Yeah.
If you want to hear that. I want to get into the passion that you have for the work that you're doing right now. I think it's so awesome. I think the ladies that are watching, listen to our show are going to love to hear about this. being a professional athlete at the highest level, man, could you please speak to the people who may be watching, listening, maybe to a friend of mine that I did sports podcasting work and media work with? What did that life actually cost you that nobody talks about, man?
Well, you know what? Two things. Well, sacrifice, I think we talk about it, like to be a pro athlete, you hear about that sacrifice. But there was something that surprised me when I turned pro that I didn't know about.
Okay.
And it was, mind you, it's self-inflicted. It was the enormous amount of pressure to perform on a daily basis, right? So you have your fans, hundreds of thousands of fans, millions of fans saying, you got to do better. You got your coaches who have pressure themselves, right? Saying, you got to do better. You got your teammates, right? Who are counting on you saying, hey, you got to do better, right? You got the fans, right? Saying, hey, come on, man, you got to do better. So that kind of surprised me. And that there was moments, I would say, for the first 2 years, it was a bit, in many retrospects, very overwhelming because the amount of pressure to perform. Mind you, it's self-inflicted because pressure is what you make of it. But I'm just telling you from my experience, right? So the similarities of that and working with high executive women, right? You can see the parallel and the correlation between the two because there's so much pressure, when you're at a senior position to perform at a high level for your numbers, for your margins, for the sales, right? And then a lot of them have also pressure at home. Okay. They have pressure from their kids, they have pressure from their husbands. So what's happening to a lot of them is a lot of people are getting what's left of you and they're not getting what's best of you.
Yeah, that's definitely a fact. In my coaching practice, I deal with burnout and stuff too. I'd love to hear how you got into the space that you're in now, where you're helping high achieving women kind of stop performing and really live life with purpose. How'd you get into that, man? Because your background, I don't know if I heard anything in your background that says, you know what, natural progression. I don't think I heard that. Yeah. How'd you get there, man?
Well, so this is what happened, right? The natural progression was I started as 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I was a personal trainer, and then as a personal trainer, a lot of them, all my clients, like 99% were females, and those female clients were high achieving women to some degree, or high achieving women, right? And then it's normal, and the personal trainers can attest this, or hair stylists can attest this. It's normal that during that hour things get intimate. You know what I mean? People tell you stories, what's going on at home, what's going on with their life, what's going on at work. And I was given really, I guess sound advice. And a lot of the women were like, Brian, like, thank you. I'm like, hey, no problem. Now give me 10, right? And the next woman would be like, Brian, like, that was really good. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, yeah. Give me 20 burpees, right? So what ended up happening was I was like, I'm hearing this like voice of like maybe this is a calling. So I ended up getting certifications and many certifications later on, and then I ended up opening my own office, and I was simultaneously, in the morning personal training, and then afternoon I was doing coaching, and then in the night I was doing personal training. So I would go from one office, right, for personal training at the gym, and then I opened up my own office. You don't need a big office, so I ended up renting it out from a coaching clinic, and then I coached all day. And then, as I'd say about 5 years after that, then I opened up this huge wellness center because essentially we had, massage, we had coaching, we had personal training, we had gym memberships. So I'm like, this is a wellness center. It's not a gym, not a coaching center. This is a wellness center. And that's what evolved. And then naturally, as I was coaching these women, because they're on the senior level, they're like, you know what? Can you come into our workplace and do a seminar, do a workshop? I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I put those together, and then that led to like having books. And that's where we are today, where I just, evolved. So that was the natural progression. That's how it all started. The seed started when, 25 years ago, I was a personal trainer that led to good advice while as personal training that led to this position that I'm in today. Does that make sense?
It
Yeah.
makes total sense to me. I feel like
Yeah.
most burnout coaches, and this is just for me in podcasts and media for the past over
Yeah.
6 years. I interview people all the time, and it feels like burnout
Uh-huh.
coaches, myself excluded, are mostly women.
Yes.
How do you believe you
Yeah.
stand out as a male in the capacity of being a burnout
Well,
coach? How do you think you stand out?
you know what? You're absolutely right. 95% of all coaches, and therapy are predominantly women for good reason. All right. There's nothing wrong with that. And the reason for that is because women naturally and intuitively have a greater connection to their feelings. So if you are connected to your feelings more, right, that will naturally, precede itself when you're working with people in that field. So people naturally gravitate towards women because men are not necessarily conditioned that way. Now, it doesn't mean you can't be that way, but that is natural. So no different than most taxi drivers are men or most soldiers are men. Most therapists are women, and that's totally fine. So now when it comes to me, okay, and me standing out, I don't try to stand out, but I do stand out, right? One, I'm a black male. Two, I'm a big black male. Three, I play professional sports, right? So, naturally, people are like, what's this all about? Doesn't mean they're going to hire me, but they're thinking, what is this about? Right? And then once they understand, okay, this person can connect, this person has remedies, this person has solutions, this person can get me from where I am today to where we need to be. You know what? At the end of the day, after 2 minutes, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, when people are paying you money, all they're thinking is, are you the one that can help them to go from where they are today to where they want to be, tomorrow or a month from now, or so on and so forth. So it doesn't matter what you look like, but naturally, yes, I do stand at 100%, right? And I have no problems with that. I think that in many ways kind of helps me, to be honest.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You
Yeah.
stand out. That's a big deal. What's the question that you ask that makes every woman in the room go silent?
Okay. Okay. Couple questions actually. One,
Okay.
I'll say, do you really want to be married? And that will shock them because, who's going to say that, especially if they're married, right? And their spouse is
Oh
beside them.
boy.
Or their friend is beside them and their friend knows their spouse, right? Or here's another truth. And I'm only saying these as not questions of like shock value. I'm saying these questions because when I'm in clinical settings and these women are telling me their deepest, darkest secrets, it's not one or two women telling me this. It's a theme. You know what I mean? The next question is, did you really want to be a mother? Did you really want to have kids? Right? So that one is where you're not going to have, if I'm speaking in a room with 250 women, 500 women, you're not going to have, well, I'm going to put my hand up. No, it's not going to happen. I already know that. But I do know by looking into their eyes and looking into their soul that there is some women in there, like 25%, not 2%, like 25%, but like, if I could do things differently, I would. Right? So it's those types of questions, right? But once again, that's in a clinical setting, and their deepest, darkest secrets does not happen in the first round. That's when they're like, I can fully trust you, and this is how I feel. And they know they're not going to be judged for having that type of feeling. Because when I first heard it, 20 years ago, I was like, come on. Rebecca, you don't mean that. Like, come on. You know what I mean? But then as Rebecca and then Shelly and then Sarah and then all these, I was like, oh, this is actually more common than people want to talk about. Okay, I see what's going on here. Now we're not saying they hate being a mother. We're not saying they hate being a wife. No, 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 no. That's not them. They're saying, now that I know what I know now, I probably would have did it differently. That's what they're saying.
What do most high achieving women get wrong about burnout? I know a lot of them are listening to the show. They're fans of all of our shows. What do most high achieving women get wrong about that?
Yeah. Accomplishment, meaning they believe that the more I do, then the more I'm valued. So the perception is, the connection is, okay, the more I do, the more I'm valued. The more I'm valued, the more I do, because the more you do, the more your boss or your counterparts or your subordinates will lean on you. So now you become, oh, I'm really valued. Okay, now here's the problem. By doing that, right, you're doing it over and over and over and over and over again. And here's what's happening. You're answering the phone when you should be having dinner with your family. You're sending emails when you should be sleeping at night and it's 1 a.m. in the morning. You know what I mean? You're skipping your gym workout, which is going to help your body and your mind, right? Because you're going to that meeting that you could easily schedule next week, but you didn't want to do that. So what happens is a lot of people, or not a lot of people, a lot of women, is the value that they feel for themselves is a misrepresentation of really taking care of who they are. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I see and hear that a lot, so I'm not shocked, but it's pretty sobering to hear it. So you authored a couple of books, man. Don't Live Another Day Without Me and The Day Dominator.
Yes.
In a sea of authors out here, there's so much. Anybody that has a story, believe they should be an author. Anybody, I don't totally agree with that myself personally, but why did you write these books, man? What was the impetus for why you felt like, you know what, this is something I have to do? Why'd you decide that?
For me, I had, for lack of better terms, I had too much information in my head. And for me, it was actually just therapeutic to let it out and to write it out. And a lot of people have gotten value from it, but I would say my motivation was probably more selfish, to be honest. It was like, I got a lot of information here. I got to get it out. So I wrote it out or typed it out essentially. And that was my motivation. Now, those books, essentially, I mean, the objective of these books is to really transform those people's lives. Like, my style is very tactile, very hands-on, very, let's get this done, right? Nothing against therapy, but I'm not really here to talk about your past or talk about what went wrong with your child. Yeah, we could tap on that. We could understand that. We could see how that affects you today. But right now, this is where you want to go. Right now, this is where you used to be. So right now, this is what we need to do. Mm-hmm.
There's time for maybe a couple more questions. I'm gonna try to squeeze them in again. That's so much I want to ask you. All right, what's the reclaim method, man? You created this framework. What is that? The reclaim method.
Okay. So the reclaim method is for women predominantly. I mean, anybody can use it, but that's my bread and butter. That's my niche, right? High achieving women. So what the reclaim method is, essentially reclaim your life. And it's, 3 methodologies, right? First, we're going to assess you. Then we're going to analyze you. Then we're going to reconcile you, right? So assess, analyze, reconcile. So we have to find out, okay, who are you? Where are you from? What's going on? Right? We have to understand you. Obviously, that would make sense, right? And then we analyze the situation. Okay, that's where you were. This is, let's analyze the situation of like how we can make this better, right? And then the last one is reconciliation. It's like, okay, we don't want you to dial it back in the sense that we don't want you to devalue yourself, or we don't want you to be a high achieving woman no more. No, that's not the philosophy. It's like, how can you still be a high achieving woman, but at the same time, not burn out at the same time, right? That's what we're doing here. And it's really about being intelligent with the process and the application of understanding, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I need to do. These are the little steps that I need to take. And for every woman, it's different. You know what I mean? For some women, it's learning to say no, right? They've never said no, right? They're just yes, like in that Jim Carrey movie. Yeah, I think it's called Yes Man or Yes or something, where they just
Yeah.
always say yes because the pressure is on, right? I think women suffer 16% more burnout than men because here's the thing. When women are in the corporate world, right? The expectation to prove themselves, I can do this too, is much greater than a male counterpart because it's kind of expected. It's kind of like a guy in the gym where it's kind of expected that he might be naturally stronger than you. That's okay. Not a big deal. Right. So in the same workforce, it's like when a woman gets to a senior position, okay, her expectations are like, hey, you got here because they had to work harder, work smarter, work longer, or maybe all three to get to that point. So they don't want to lose all that hard work that got them to that level. So now what's happening is they're selling themselves out, whether it's in their family, whether it's in their kids, whether it's in other aspects of their job, because they're like, hey, I can do it. I got this. I got this. And it's like, I know, I believe you, Becky. I believe you, but I know you're tired. And Becky can't say that. Because if she says she's tired, not Robert. If Becky says she's tired, she's considered weak. And she's not weak. She's powerful.
Mm-hmm. This is going to be my last question for you. I'm going to try to do that.
Yep.
But at the end of that, I'm going to have you share where folks can find you and your work and have you drop a little bit of wisdom and wise counsel to the people who are watching and listening.
Okay.
What do the woman have to give up to get her life back in your estimation? I know this could be terrifying for a lot of women. What do they have to give to theoretically get their life back? Right now, they probably think they're living already by doing all they're doing, but they're probably more doing than they are being. So what do we have to give up?
Great question. Great question. I mean, every woman's different, right? But for the most part, they have to give up the idea of who they want to be and focus on who they should be. Let me say that one more time. They have to give up the idea of who they want to be. So Becky, for example, right? What's my idea? Oh, I have big goals and dreams, and I want to be the CEO or the CFO, and I want to make sure that I'm recognized as the top 50, in the state, and so on and so forth. So that's the idea, right? Versus they should be focused on who they should be. Now, who is that? I don't know, but for a lot of them, mind you, this is closed doors information that I'm just, telling to your viewers. A lot of them want to be a mom. A lot of them just want to be a wife. A lot of them don't want to be the CEO. And they want to be a couple steps below, but because their trajectory is leading that way, and everyone's like, oh man, I'm so proud of you. Oh, you're doing it. And especially other women, right? They're like, oh, I want to be just like you, Becky. And Becky's saying, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. But that's time. Right now, for the small percentage of women or large percentage that want to do that, hey, amazing. Amazing. This is not me trying to convince women. No. Absolutely. If that's what you want, go. This is me talking to your viewers who are listening right now saying, he's talking to you, but I can't say anything because if I do, I'll be looked upon as weak. And I'm not weak. And man, they are not weak. They're some of the strongest people. They just don't know how to tell the world that's how they feel.
I love it, man. Wow. Yeah. Master coach, author, first round draft pick, certified wellness specialist. I think he's even a Renaissance man too. Brian Nugent. This is him, man. Being a part of the conversation, man. Thank you for doing this, man.
Let me give before we go anywhere, let me give my flowers to you. Okay, what you're doing is amazing stuff. All right, what you are doing and inspiring people around the world, and so that they can listen and say, you know what, this changed my life. Listen to this particular podcast, changed the way I was thinking. You know, it's people like you that are making, and this kind of sounds cliche, but it's not. But you know, you are making the world a better place. But let's just call it, you're making things better, and we need more people like you.
Well, thank you I feel the same way about you. Thanks for supporting us and me and what we're doing on all these shows. I need your support, so I thank you for it, Brian. How do you find Brian, his coaching and his books? Website's right on the screen for you guys that are listening and not watching. Listen to me carefully. www.briannugent, NUGENT.ca. www.briannugent.ca.
Nugent, like the rock star, Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent. People, that's how they remember when they hear that. They're like, oh, like the rock star. I'm like, yeah, I'm related.
Yeah, like the rock star Ted Nugent. Exactly. Brian, thanks again. You guys have been a fantastic listening audience. If you have any questions for Brian, you now know how to find them in the show notes and in the comments section, of course. If you can't find that, you got to me. I get you guys connected with Brian and his work, with his coaching and his books. That's Brian Nugent. I'm Mr. U. Thanks for watching the Inspiration Station. Hope you feel inspired. Have a good day.